Hello and welcome. I am Oyiza Adaba. Today we have a special guest in the house, Mr. Gbenga Ogunjimi. Gbenga Ogunjimi is the head of the Nigeria Center in Washington, D.C., a 501c3 corporation that is the first immigrant and cultural center for Nigerians in diaspora in the United States. The Nigeria Center was established to provide a connection to Nigerian culture while offering financial inclusion, social justice opportunities for members of the Nigerian American community living in the United States. It's located in the nation's capital, and the center aims to complement and amplify the efforts of the community based nonprofits serving the African immigrant community in the US. The Nigerian Center also provides a platform for members of the African diaspora to learn about the Nigerian heritage while connecting them also to the current Nigerian American culture within the US.
My name is Gbenga Ogunjimi, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Nigerian Center. The Nigerian Center is the very first Nigerian American immigrant and community center. While we are called the Nigerian Center, we serve all minority and all immigrant groups in the United States. In many immigrant communities across the country and around the world, whether they're Chinese or Jewish or Latinos or even Ethiopians, there is an actual location members of those communities can walk into to support the American dream and American experience. While the Nigerian community individually has prospered, we now have an opportunity as a community to have our own Nigerian center.
I remember my uncle, I think I was like 10. He got deported. I haven't seen him in years because he can't come back in this country. If he had had the resources that the Nigerian Center offered, maybe it would be a different story.
As a pastor, and I can speak confidently for the church community, a lot of pastors struggle with the kinds of immigration challenges that their members are having. And sometimes when we pastors meet, we joke about the fact that there's this thing that is, the don't ask, don't tell kind of thing. A principle that most Nigerians are engaging in. They don't tell you what they are going through. Some of them are dying in silence. By the time they speak up, sometimes it's too late. And I know that as a pastor, I could have, the Nigerian Center will have come handy in helping people to know what is right, having the right information, speak to the right attorney, have right representation in court, and just to make the journey easier and smoother in the United States.
People come here from different paths, and for the same main reason is to get a better life, a better situation for their family. So there are numerous ways, numerous paths to the United States and to citizenship. So we help people with family-based immigration, employment-based immigration, asylum, refugee cases, student visas, pretty much everything that the law allows us to assist people with the process of immigration.
The Nigerian Center plays a very key role in integrating and supporting Nigerian Americans in the US. And with that, we welcome Mr. Gbenga Ogunjimi, who's going to tell us more about the center. Mr. Gbenga, it's wonderful to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. And would like for you to give us a little bit of an overview about your work at the Nigeria Center.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Nigerian Center is a startup nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C., and is a response to the need for the Nigerian American community, which is the largest Black immigrant group in the United States, to have its own physical location called an immigrant cultural center, like all other communities have. So we started in our second year in Washington, D.C.,
And my role pretty much is to, I'm just privileged to kind of lead the initiative, to be kind of the, the, the face for the community, to just help amplify and champion our collective voices. But overall, is a cultural center for every one of us. Our programs are more heavy on immigration because we realize that even though our mission is financial inclusion, we can participate in that process without immigration justice. So we offer a walk-in immigration clinic and virtual consultation at no cost to client. We do policy work as well. The financial programs include home ownership, access to capital, and we do cultural classes, language classes, Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, and just kind of providing the global diaspora access to their cultural heritage through cultural classes.
Interesting, and I imagine that beyond the Nigerians that live here in the United States, there are others that are interested in what we do as well. So I'm sure your services extend to beyond just Nigerians living in the US. Am I right?
That is absolutely correct. So while we call the Nigerian Center, we serve everyone. We serve all groups who walk through our doors. Although our cultural programs lean heavily towards Nigerian culture, but our social programs, our financial programs are open to everyone.
Wonderful. Let me ask you what the scenario is. What are you seeing? What are the top issues that you have to contend with at the Nigeria Center when it regards Nigerians living in the United States?
Well, the very first is awareness. The awareness that we now have such a center that folks can turn to. And because oftentimes we don't have a context for such a center, sometimes it might be a little bit challenging communicating, even when people find about the center, to really understand that this is actually available. And I think that speaks to the resilience of the Nigerian people, because when we come here, we just try to figure out the system and we are very entrepreneurial, but we don't usually go through the other route other communities go through. They can turn to a center that can support their journey. So letting folks know that we now have such a center, I think, is the biggest opportunities that we have. All the challenges that we have, for the most part, it's just been a resounding, excitement with folks. Next to the awareness, I think there's an overwhelming sense of excitement that we now have a center, we have such a program. People are so excited. I know a lot of people sometimes will just call just to verify it's real. So now that I need the service, just as, this sense of identity, pride, community that we have. So it's been wonderful with the center.
I think it's what you do is quite laudable, because Nigerians generally are really mistreated abroad. I don't know, for whatever reason. Maybe it's just the way we come off for that green passport. But those of us that are outside of the country, and when I say mistreated, by our own, our governments, when we go to the to get our passports, or to the consulate offices and all of that. So there's hardly any regard for us as Nigerians by our own government. So I mean, to see a center that we can run to as Nigerians living abroad, with needs that the governments may not be able to immediately attend to, I think it's great, and I think it's laudable. I would like to talk specifically about some of your programs, and I really want you to delve into the situation, the statistics of Nigerians living abroad that are not documented in the United States. I mean, I believe I read that the figure is up to about 125,000 Nigerians living abroad, living in the US, that have no documentation. Can you paint a picture for us, please, on what life for these individuals is like?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. There's a significant number of undocumented Nigerians living in the United States. We estimate around that number of 125,000 currently living in the United States that may be out of status or trying to get some form of status, that have very different issues that they are contending with. A significant number of these folks led very challenging situations back home. Some of them are victims of crisis when it comes to persecution. Some argue religious persecution, political persecution, um, internal tribal conflicts within the country, um, disasters in terms of food insecurity. The country has one of the largest internally displaced people on the continent. Um, we've been for over a decade um, in armed conflict with Boko Haram insurgencies. So all different factors contribute to folks coming to a country like the United States to get some form of protection and sanctuary from what we're dealing with. So that is the reality that we have. On the back of this, Nigerian Center led a coalition of over 100 nonprofit organizations to petition the Biden administration to designate Nigeria for TPS, temporary protected status, which provides a form of blanket protection to those communities of people. So think about TPS, for those who might not know, as an asylum for an entire country, not an individual, that are affected. It does not apply to those who want to just come to the United States. It's only for those who are currently in the United States at the point of that designation. And what that would do is to provide them some form of protection so they won't have to be deported back to the conditions they are fleeing from. And while they're in the United States, they can become a contributing force to the country, both to the United States and as well back in Nigeria. So that is kind of the response of the Nigerian Center to this vulnerable community.
And what are you seeing? What kind of response are you seeing from Congress with all the letters and the petitions? And what kind of response are you receiving from the Biden administration regarding TPS for Nigerians?
Yeah, so I think the very first breakthrough that we are having is that we have officially made such a request. So if you think about the fact that for a decade long, so if you recall the Chibok girls crisis and all of these issues in Nigeria, there has been never a time that civil society organizations led by diaspora organizations actually petitioned the Biden administration or United States government for such a designation. So we have officially made that designation, that petition. That petition has been received and acknowledged and responded to the civil society group. That is a big deal. And it's a big deal because even as we anticipate the designation, I should echo that at this time, those who are individually seeking asylum application can actually reference that petition that is going on, that a group of civil society group have already documented the country conditions and has been recognized by the United States government. That make the application a whole lot more stronger on an individual basis. But continuing your question, we have two sets of congressional support for the campaign. The first one was led by three Congress members, Congresswoman Illinois Norton of Washington, D.C., Yvette Clark of New York, and Glenn Ivey of Maryland. They led close to 25 other Congress members signing a petition to the Biden administration. And shortly after that, we had another letter that was led by Yvette Clark, calling for Black immigrant countries, including Nigeria. That had close to 50 Congress members actually signed that petition to the Biden administration. It has been acknowledged. And we have also heard back from the authorities. We have had White House engagement with State Department, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and the White House on these issues as well, letting them know the urgency of the situation in Nigeria. All the groups, such as ICANN, International Committee on Nigeria, and several groups as well, are continuing to push for religious freedom, intervention from the United States government to what is going on. There is another parallel campaign advocating for the redesignation of Nigeria as a country of concern. And while folks may have split position on that, on such a designation, what it does, that it provides a stronger impetus for the United States government to actually weigh in and intervene on the violence and the gross human rights abuses happening on the continent in Nigeria. So that is the engagement that we are seeing with the United States government. I also want to echo that we are extremely thrilled and honored to be able to lead such a coalition that for the very first time we can see a coming together of Nigerian organizations from the north, from the south, from different professional groups, Association of Engineers, nursing, pharmacists, all of that coming together to say we speak collectively as a voice. And this is what we're petitioning the United States government to intervene. I think that is where we are with the congressional campaign.
The Nigeria Center is also advocating for other options to the TPS. One of such is the green card through a physician's national interest waiver. And this allows for individuals with exceptional abilities and individuals who are members of a professional body to hold holding advanced degrees to get green cards and permanent residence. So the eligibility criteria is on their website at uscis.gov. You can find more information on their website at uscis.gov. Can you humanize? Thank you so much for that breakdown. I think it makes it clearer to the average person what is going on and what your efforts in the last few years have been. Can you humanize some of these experiences or some of the stories for us, please? What is the worst that you have heard from a Nigerian's experience that has been deprived of this opportunity?
You know, when we had the U.S. government stakeholder meeting with TPS, a coalition member painted a very vivid picture that so there are groups of human rights organizations who are helping Africans also crossing the southern border and providing them some form of advocacy. Because what happens sometimes is when other nationalities cross the border and come to the United States, U.S. may have treaties with those countries. They may have some form of partnership or legislation with those countries. So they have a little bit of protection sometimes. But countries that don't, it can get a little bit challenging for them. So we actually entered in as part of the petition, a story of a Nigerian family crossing through the border. And it's very dire, the conditions that were painted, and we've seen the documentaries what people have to endure to come into the country. But I think what stood out for me just listening was the story about even if they literally see I'm very struggling to paint the picture, but I actually see like people loss of lives, and while people were losing life trying to make the cross into the country, they they actually see vultures circling in, and it's so it's so uh, heartbreaking to paint. But the point is, still they maintain they'll rather cross through to come to the United States, and they will rather flee from what they're trying to escape back home. And I thought, wow, that even being completely dehumanized and the violence and the turmoil they had to endure, just the opportunity to come to the United States to have some form of protection is worth it and to remain in certain conditions.
It's amazing. Last month, TVC reported that over 700 people had been killed in Plateau State due to the insecurity between April 2023 and August 2023.
Wow.
That is one state. And the last incident was in Haipang, just outside Jos, where 21 people were slaughtered in their sleep.
Wow.
And children are left orphaned. Who's going to take care of them? I know a lady that is part of an NGO in Jos that is, working with these children. They just built a new block of schools for them. They had to sell clothes and sell some, create a campaign around it to raise money, and they're still trying to raise funds for these children. So, just to paint a picture of some of what our country is not all that bad. If it were good enough, people wouldn't be running away. And I'm not just talking about the Nigeria experience, I'm talking about the Africa experience. I was reading yesterday the office of the UN IOM. They did a study, and they said that came up with the conclusion. It's called the Missing Migrants Project. They came up with the conclusion after their studies that the southern border is indeed the most dangerous in the world, and painting the picture of some of what you just narrated, and these are people's realities. This office is set up to look for people's loved ones across the world, because migration has become such a big issue and such a sensitive one as well. Um, so thank you again, Mr. Ogunjimi, for painting those realities. These are people, and they have families back home that may or may never know where they ended up. So I think the United States is missing out on an opportunity, and it's not late to take it up, and take us up on it as Nigerians, to really do and give our best. Mr. Gunjimi, I'd like you to tell us a little bit more, moving from the TPS, which is a very heavy issue. Tell us a little bit more about the Nigeria Center and how you would like our government to better engage you.
Yeah. So I think we also have an opportunity to tell a new Nigerian story to the world. So we are this inflection point whereby the global perception of Nigeria is transforming right before our eyes. And it's so interesting. There are far extremes from where we're just coming from with humanitarian conditions, but there's also the upside and the positive stories as well. And we see the contributions that our country continue to give to the world, changing in terms of culture, both in the United States, our food, our music, our language, our people, our expertise, our contribution, our genius, even our spirituality. It's globally celebrated and embraced. So other countries have done this through cultural diplomacy and cultural centers like the Nigerian Center. So we know the British Council, we know the Alliance Française, we know of all of this cultural groups will celebrate and help propagate their country's culture overseas. That is what the Nigerian Center is poised and positioned to do. And we have an opportunity for the center to not just only be a center that provides financial inclusion for those who are in the diaspora, but a gateway for the Nigerian culture to be celebrated even more around the world. So I think that is one opportunity that we do have. So we have an opportunity to use centers like the Nigerian Center to be able to tell our story. I also want to elevate that to even to the global diaspora, whether it is Ancestry.com, 23andMe, or all of these ancestry testing companies will tell you that Nigeria has the largest ancestry for the global diaspora around the world. So on that basis, Nigerian Center engaged the Washington, D.C. government to designate October 1st as Nigerian American Day. So we started that last year. A new celebration is coming up. And we are seeing that we can actually even redefine and amplify and transform what it means to be Nigerian or Nigerian Americans. And I said that whether you came to the United States recently or you came centuries ago, we now have an opportunity for a whole new, brand new Nigerian American that everyone can actually share ancestry with. I see a lot of celebrities, American celebrities, come to your show and they celebrate their Nigerian ancestry. Some of them even haven't set a foot in Nigeria, but they embrace the culture. Imagine when we now have a center dedicated to this singular mission alone in the United States. I think that is one great opportunity that we have. So October 1st, Nigerian American Day is coming. We hope to see that replicated across the 50 states and even outside of the United States, where whether it's in Brazil or UK or United Kingdom or Europe or China or Southeast Asia, that we can see Nigerian culture globally even more celebrated.
Thank you for watching the report. I hope you've picked up something, and if you still need more, please head over to the nigeriacenter.org for more information. I'm Oyiza Adaba. See you next time.